Good evening, everybody. Our top story is a powerful 7-magnitude earthquake hitting Alaska this afternoon, the epicenter, just miles from the capital city of Anchorage. The quake shook buildings and bridges, tore up roads and streets, and residents sent scrambling for safety. And aftershocks are still rattling through the region.
Quick, make no mistake, this was a big one. The damage right now is quite significant. If you're seeing it on the news, you're seeing pictures, and where it's very significant is with regard to our infrastructure, with regard to bridges, with regard to highways that have collapsed.
We'll have the latest breaking developments on this powerful and devastating quake, its aftermath, and the continuing aftershocks throughout this broadcast. Also, while President Trump is doing deals and diplomacy, putting America first at the G20 summit in Argentina, the Mueller witch hunt slithers on, producing no evidence of any kind of collusion in more than 2 years of investigation by the FBI and the special counsel. The angry Dems who make up the special counsel are increasingly desperate and pathetically trying to smear this president and those close to him with their politically motivated leaks and campaigns of innuendo. And of course, the partisan establishment and globalist elites of both parties cheering Mueller on and on and on. We examined Mueller's partisan persecution of President Trump, Mueller's consistent leaking of allegations, and the special counsel's efforts to undermine this president whenever Mr. Trump is within days of an important summit. Coincidence? Not on your life. One of the best-known conservative journalists in the country has found himself in Mueller's crosshairs, but he is fighting back. Author and commentator Jerome Corsi joins me here tonight. And in Brazil, an historic election of a new president. He's sometimes called the Trump of Brazil. And after years of economic decline and stagnation in the second largest country in the hemisphere, rampant political corruption, more than 200 million Brazilians are now to be led by the populist Jair Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro won on a platform of putting his country first, by strengthening the military, by cutting taxes, embracing conservative values. Brazilian Congressman Eduardo Bolsonaro, the president-elect's son, joins us tonight. Our top story, a powerful earthquake shocking Alaska. The quake's epicenter just miles from Anchorage. The earthquake, a magnitude 7.0, and it has had a number of several strong aftershocks, ripping up roads, tearing down buildings, shattering glass in homes and businesses throughout the region. Correspondent Dan Springer with the latest now from our Northwest Bureau in Seattle. Dan?
Hi, Lou. They are still assessing the damage in and around Anchorage, but this much is clear. It is major and will cause problems getting around Anchorage for many months. The earthquake was centered in Point McKenzie. That's just about 5 miles north of downtown Anchorage, home to about 280,000 Alaskans. The ground shook for over a minute, causing severe damage to roads, bridges, breaking water mains, and knocking out power to tens of thousands. It triggered a tsunami warning, which was later canceled. Also, the 800-mile oil pipeline, the money-making lifeblood of the state, has been shut down as a precaution. There are no reports of damage to that pipeline. The airport was also shut down for a while, but planes are again being allowed to take off and land. The regional head of FEMA is on his way to Anchorage, and the state's congressional delegation held a news conference this afternoon.
The infrastructure assessment will be a longer-term assessment, most clearly, but it has impacted the major arterials in and around Anchorage, and that is a concern.
The video is dramatic. This was on the 6th floor of the courthouse in downtown Anchorage. You can see things banging against the walls and people ducking for cover. There are reports of widespread damage, primarily to the many houses in the area. Wasilla's own Sarah Palin, the former governor of Alaska and vice presidential nominee, put out on social media that her family is intact, but her house is not. Alaska is the most seismically active state in the country, with 10,000 earthquakes a year. and 45 of those earthquakes range in strength between magnitude 6 and 7, but it is rare to see a quake this strong in Anchorage. The great news is there are no reports of any deaths or even significant injuries, but there was plenty of drama. We got a picture taken by a guy who was driving this truck. When the earthquake started, it was dark outside. He stopped the truck. When he got out, the road had collapsed around him. Thankfully, he's okay, but like so many Alaskans today, nerves are shaken and still too early to tell exactly the extent of the damage. Lou?
Dan, thank you very much. Dan Springer reporting. President Trump pushing forward with the America First agenda at the G20 in Argentina. But once again, special counsel Robert Mueller's witch hunt has taken steps to distract the president while he's abroad. Yesterday, as the president prepared to depart for the important summit, Mueller announced a plea deal had been reached with former Trump attorney Michael Cohen. The move eerily similar to the very same stunt that Mueller pulled just before the president headed to his July summit in Helsinki with Russian President Vladimir Putin. 3 days before the meeting between the president and Putin, Mueller indicted 12 Russian military officials for hacking the Democratic Party's computer system to sabotage the 2016 election. But nothing has come from that, of course. It was purely a show demonstration. Earlier today, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders decried Mueller and the negative impact that his investigation has had on American foreign relations, saying this: the Russian witch hunt hoax, which is hopefully now nearing an end, is doing very well, unfortunately. It probably does undermine our relationship with Russia. My next guest says he intends to shut down Special Counsel Mueller's witch hunt. He's rejected a plea deal from Mueller, and he is now fighting accusations that he lied under oath. He's filing a criminal complaint against Mueller and the Justice Department for prosecutorial misconduct. Joining us here tonight, political commentator, New York Times bestselling author Jerome Corsi, the author of the soon-to-be-released Silent No More, How I Became a Political Prisoner of Mueller's Witch Hunt. It will be available next week, first as an ebook on Amazon. Great to have you here.
Lou, great to be back with you. Thank you.
This is an extraordinary tale. You were told, in effect, by the Mueller counsel to plead to a deal that would keep you from being prosecuted for lying to Robert Mueller's witch hunt attorneys.
Right. I mean, first of all, I came into, this was after 40 hours of testimony over 6 sessions in 2 months. My attorney and I began it by wanting to work voluntarily with the Mueller special counsel. I brought in my computers, my time machine, signed off over
over documents,
all my email accounts, everything.
40 hours, 40 hours of testimony
over 2 months.
So what did you lie about?
Well, it's a remarkable thing. The first day, I had forgotten a couple of emails, and I said I did not want to send anyone to see Julian Assange.
Right.
And there's this one email which I had not seen. I did not get to reload my 2016 emails on a broken computer until after the first day. And this one email from Roger Stone said, get to Assange, and I forwarded it to Ted Malloch, professor in London. Now, I'd forgotten about that. And in fact, special prosecutor let me...
What was it that you were telling him to get to Assange?
Oh, just to... the message was someone should go and see Assange in London in order to find out what additional emails after July 22nd, when Assange dropped emails on W. Wasserman Schultz, he had more, and Roger Stone wanted to find out what they are.
That seems like a century ago, doesn't it?
It does, and it's a normal request. I mean, every journalist in America wanted to know what Assange had, and I forwarded it to Ted Malloch, and I'd forgotten about it.
Did you ever get a reply?
Well, no. In fact, I didn't. I do not think Ted ever went. He never replied to the email.
And you never talked with Assange or communicated directly with him?
Absolutely not. I don't know Assange. I've never met Assange. And the special prosecutor let me amend this testimony. And after I saw the email, I said I was wrong. But I'm being charged. They wanted me to plead guilty to a charge which was on the original day one mistake, not the amended testimony.
They allowed you to amend it and then had the effrontery, the arrogance, the impertinence, the gall to charge you with lying when they acknowledged that they would allow you to amend it, did so, and you amended it.
Yes. And this
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. I can't believe it either. It's not justice as I understand it in America.
It's not justice anywhere in the world.
Right.
This is, I mean, it's
And
not,
so, look, I would not go in front of a federal judge and swear to God, and that means something to me. I mean, I'm a weird duck coming from Harvard. I do believe in Jesus Christ, and I do believe in God.
there are a few of us left.
There's a few of us left. And I'm not going to go before a federal judge and put my hand up and swear that I knowingly and willingly used false information with an intent to deceive the government when I know I didn't.
So where do you stand with the special counsel?
Well, I expect that they may come to knock on my door tonight and arrest me, because having rejected their plea deal, which they offered.
How did you reject it? What form did that take?
Oh, I went on this. In fact, Monday, I was on One American News, and I said, I reject the deal. I'd had it. I reject the deal. I'm not going to do it. That's when I announced it.
That's a very Trumpian thing you just did. You're communicating by television. Did you also tweet it?
I don't think I tweeted it until the next day.
So has there been, just in the interest of clarity,
right.
Has there been any follow-up so that you are directly telling your attorney to talk to the
Oh,
attorney?
yes. Well, my attorney and I have discussed this at great length.
No, I'm not talking about with your attorney. Has he you directly talked to the special counsel?
My attorney has, and my attorney's told, we'll take it from here. Hang up the phone.
Well, outrageous, persist, I know you will, and I can't imagine any judge in this country, no matter what in this politically corrupted judiciary of ours, would fail to understand the wrong, the wrong that this special counsel is trying to do to you.
Well, if I have to die in jail over this to get the point across to the American people that this is not the standard of justice in America I grew up with, I'll die in jail. I will not swear before a judge to a lie.
You know, I think, to paraphrase Patton, it's the other SOBs who should perhaps make sacrifices. It's great to see you here. I wish you all the luck.
Thank you, Lou. I really appreciate it.
And let's hope this nightmare, this witch hunt, and the arrogance of these, what is it the president calls them, 17 angry Democrats trailing along Robert Mueller, a disaster for the country.
God bless you, Lou. Thank you very much.
You too. Thank you very much, Jerry. Jerome Corsi. And again, his e-book is coming out next week. The book title is Silent No More, How I Became a Political Prisoner of Mueller's Witch Hunt. Now, it's coming out next week as an e-book on Amazon. You can go to Amazon and pre-order it now. We encourage you to do so. We recommend it to you highly. It is quite a story. It is a tragic situation. What the president has to endure, what Jerome Corsi has to endure, what the nation has to endure because of the partisan witch hunt that has been going on, first under the FBI for almost a year, and now for a year and a half under a special counsel that is produced, as Richard Burr, the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence chairman, said, not a scintilla of evidence. Up next here, more developments in the Mueller witch hunt. We'll take up the latest in the special counsel case against the president's former campaign manager. Also fired FBI Director James Comey challenging a subpoena to appear before the House. What is he hiding? And why does he think he can win in court against the Congress of the United States? And why would a man who has devoted so much of his life to public service suddenly be afraid of our system of government? We take it up after the break with Trump 2020 Advisory Board member Mark Lotto. He joins us here next. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Special counsel Robert Mueller said to be considering new charges tonight against former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort. But none of those charges have anything to do with Russian collusion. But we're getting used to that, aren't we? For the latest on the Mueller witch hunt, we turn to Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge.
Paul Manafort's legal team arrived at the federal court in Washington for the short hearing where special counsel prosecutor Andrew Weissman indicated more criminal charges are under consideration, including offenses Manafort admitted to but was never charged with. Manafort's lawyers say the special counsel is using pressure tactics, and the plea deal broke down because Mueller's team wants information their client cannot provide. A tentative sentencing is now scheduled for March.
Mr. Cohen has cooperated.
A day after the president's former personal attorney pled guilty to lying to Congress, Donald Trump Jr.'s 2017 Senate testimony about the Moscow real estate proposal is under scrutiny. While Michael Cohen claimed he briefed the Trump family, the president's son said he knew, quote, very little about the deal, adding, it sort of faded away, I believe, at the end of 2014. That timeline appears to conflict with Cohen, who said discussions continued until June 2016. Separately, Felix Sater, a Russian-born real estate developer, broached the idea of a penthouse for Russian President Vladimir Putin. Sater did not comment to Fox on the penthouse proposal, but said, quote, no matter which capital you build this caliber of a project in, you would need cooperation of local government. A former Justice Department official is reserving judgment.
The big question is whether it crosses the line to establish some sort of criminal wrongdoing on the part of the president or those close to him. I think that is the big question. Politically damaging, yes. What are the legal consequences? I would say to be determined.
Pointing to a double standard, Fox News has learned the president's legal team is revisiting their 2017 request to Mueller and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein to investigate former FBI Director James Comey over the accuracy of his sworn congressional testimony. Comey's lawyers were also in court today battling a congressional subpoena for a closed-door interview under oath. The committee chairman accused the former director of using the same legal tactics as the firm behind the anti-Trump dossier.
He is trying to run the clock on us, and that's why we think he's filed this motion to quash. Fusion GPS also tried that. They were knocked down, and instead he came in, Glenn Simpson came in and took the fifth.
Late today, the judge said he may rule on the Comey subpoena as early as Monday. Comey wants a public hearing because he accuses some committee members of selective leaks, even though 16 other committee witnesses agreed to a closed-door interview, including former senior FBI leadership. Lou.
Catherine, thank you very much. Comey obviously is what he is. Adding to that report, a federal appellate court has announced it will hold a closed oral argument session on December 14th to address a lawsuit apparently filed, definitely filed against special counsel Robert Mueller, but apparently by an unidentified grand jury witness not particularly thrilled with the special counsel. There seems to be a theme building here, doesn't there? Joining me now to take up the latest from the Mueller witch hunt, the signing of the new trade agreement among the United States, Canada, and Mexico, former press secretary to Vice President Pence, Trump 2020 Advisory Board member Mark Lauder. Mark, good to have you with us here.
Thanks for having me, Lou.
Let's start with the special counsel and what is now it is moving toward a drumbeat of those willing to stand up against Mueller and say this is enough. You're not going to trample on my civil rights. You're not going to intimidate me. You're going to treat me with respect as an American citizen. Where do you think we're headed here?
I think it's been clear for quite some time that this is not an investigation of a crime looking for a suspect. It's an investigation of a man looking for a crime, that man being President Donald Trump. And the special counsel and his prosecutors are turning more screws right now than the rehab experts on HGTV. They are trying to find anyone and everyone they can intimidate and pressure into saying what they want to hear. If you say it, you'll get a lighter sentence. If you don't, you're going to prison for a very long time. And I think your earlier guest is testament to that.
Yeah, Jerome Corsi, charged with lying by the FBI, wanting a plea deal, not charged, demanding a plea deal to agree to becoming a federal felon for something that he was allowed to amend. It's reaching a new level, I think, of intimidation and utter trampling of citizen rights.
No, you're absolutely right, and it just shows they are so consumed with finding something. They've been at this for a year and a half with no evidence of collusion, so they're trying to now justify their existence by going back and finding past transgressions from business dealings, in some cases decades or a decade or more behind us, well before the campaign started, and trying to use that as pressure, and it's just not panning out for them.
Why do you think the Republican leadership, and I'm talking about specifically McConnell and Ryan, have refused to stand up for this president and say to the general counsel, here's a date certain, get it wrapped up, and move on, because it is now a travesty against justice instead of a special counsel in the interest of justice?
Well, I think at a certain level, they're hoping what we all can see plainly is that at the end of the day, you're going to have a report that shows that there was no collusion between the Trump campaign, the president, and Russia. And so if they allow this to play itself out, there will be that vindication. If you shut it down, it becomes more of a political issue where you'll have questions and Democrats who are continuing to say, well, we never know, we'll never know. So hopefully, Director Mueller is working through this process, and he's going to come to the conclusion that we can all see clearly in front of our eyes and what the president has said from day one. There was no collusion.
Mark, let's turn to the president bringing together the other two leaders in the multilateral deal, the USMCA, the trade agreement among Canada, Mexico, and the United States, a campaign promise, a promise that he made, now coming to fruition. It has to go before Congress, of course, to be approved. But now comes the hard part, and that's with President Xi and China, and President Trump and the United States. The prospects, in your judgment, for any deal, and is no deal still, do you believe, clearly and unequivocally in this president's thoughts, rather than a bad deal?
Well, ultimately, the president's always first and foremost looking to get the best deal possible for American workers. We saw that with the new U.S. Canada-Mexico agreement.
Do you think that he would be, because he is under a lot of pressure from a lot of people around him, including Wall Street, the Koch brothers, and everybody else, to sign any kind of deal and move on with China, irrespective if there's $600 billion worth of theft of intellectual property, irrespective if it's debts and deficits in perpetuity with China?
I think the one thing we can say confidently, and I can say confidently about President Trump, is he's not going to make a bad deal. And any time that we think that there's political pressure or conventional wisdom that's going to pressure him to do one thing before it's ready, he doesn't care. He's only looking about making that good deal, the best deal for the American worker and for our country. And if he has to take a little bit of political heat for it, he has shown a willingness on multiple occasions to take that heat to weather that storm.
I mean, we're watching corporate America running shuttles to Beijing, participating in a propaganda effort against this president. I mean, he's under attack all of the time, and he's still done more than any president in modern presidential American history, in 2 years, and any have done in 4 years, or most in 8. Mark, it's great to have you with us. Come back soon. It's going to be fascinating to watch. Mark Lauder. Up next, President Trump fighting for fair and balanced trade with China and the end of their theft and thieving ways. And he wants a breakthrough, but only a breakthrough on his terms, as he sits down with Chinese President Xi Jinping. We'll be right back. A new report by the Daily Caller finding that earlier this month, 16 FBI agents raided the home of Department of Justice whistleblower Dennis Nathan Cain. He had documents on the Clinton Foundation and Uranium One. Those documents showing that then FBI Director Robert Mueller failed to investigate allegations of criminal misconduct related to Russian government entities connected to Uranium One. Despite Cain's claims that his whistleblower status offered him protection that the agent's search would breach, the FBI agent searched his home anyway. Joining us now to talk about the new Canadian-Mexican-U.S. trade deal and President Trump's upcoming meeting with President Xi at the G20 summit, Fred Fleitz. He is the former Chief of Staff of the National Security Council, incoming President, and CEO of the Center for Security Policy. Great to have you here. Gordon Chang, Asia Hand, I think we can say, author of The Coming Collapse of China and the Nuclear Showdown. Gordon, let's start with you, if we may, and that is Xi and Trump. It doesn't look like the Chinese want a deal. The president says that he and Xi do want a deal. is there any real prospect that a deal could be done?
Not long term. I mean, right now you hear a number of people talk about architecture and framework.
That's not.
Yeah, and that's basically stalling. But long term, because China is determined to steal U.S. intellectual property, because Xi Jinping is determined to have a state-dominated economy, that's incompatible with a trading nation. So long term, this is not going to work.
You know, Fred, I get a kick out of people. They're shocked to learn that Jack Ma, the creator, the founder of Alibaba, the multi-billionaire, China's richest man, has been a Chinese communist member since 1980. I mean, people are delirious when it comes to the totalitarian state that is China.
It is a totalitarian state, but I think Gordon, who's a good friend of mine, is getting ahead of himself here. It's too soon to say that the president's efforts to get a trade deal with China will be unsuccessful. It's going to take a lot of work.
We're talking about over the weekend.
Well, the president is going to use this summit to try to convince President Xi to negotiate in earnest. It's going to take a lot of work to reverse the bad policies of multiple presidents over decades, letting China engage in predatory trade.
You don't have to tell us. Seriously, Gordon, in my opinion, is actually in absolute perfect tempo with the times in which we live and the challenges we face, as is the President of the United States. There can be no quick wins here. There can be no sudden shifts because, as you say, on one hand, the intractable Chinese mean to dominate the world, not just create hegemony in Asia. They mean to be the dominant force in all of global politics and existence.
A strong president who can inflict pain upon the Chinese and not back down. The Chinese respect strength. That's how we might be able to get there.
But I don't understand. What are you arguing with Gordon about? Are you saying that he's going to create a trade deal of some sort, some architecture, some framework, and pass it off as a trade deal? Surely not.
No, I just disagree with Gordon that his statement that long term we won't get a deal. You know, Gordon might be right about that, but I'm not prepared to give up on this yet.
You know, nor is the president. The fact of the matter is either the Chinese change their ways or the Chinese are going to find out that the United States and this president have far more friends than he's credited with. Look at what's happening right now in China with supply chains and with manufacturing and offshoring from not only this country, but Europe as well. It's moving to Southeast Asia. It is moving to Vietnam and other countries already. If the Chinese persist, they will be punished, won't they, Gordon?
Well, they certainly will, because as you say, the supply chains are moving. People are moving production out of China for a number of reasons. One of them is that they can see that clearly Xi Jinping is not going to have a good environment for them.
Gordon, we got, Fred, we got about 15 seconds. Wrap it up for us.
Well, look, I think the prospects are that the president's going to make progress in pressing Xi to negotiate, but we're going to have to put a lot more pressure on them if we're going to get a substantial deal.
Progress is ending theft of our intellectual property. Progress is securing a balanced trade. Anything else is nonsense. Fred Fleitz, Gordon Chang, thank you both.
Thank you.
Here.
We'll be right back. On Wall Street today, stocks closing higher, ending this week. The Dow up 200 points today, the S&P up 22, the Nasdaq gaining 57. Volume on the big board, the heaviest trading session of the week, 4.5 billion shares. The Dow and S&P up 5% for this rather favorable week. The Nasdaq up nearly 6%. Crude oil, well, it lost over 1%, down to nearly $51 a barrel. Gold down a fraction. Silver down a full percent, and copper closing relatively flat. Marriott International Hotels hit with the second largest data breach in history. Nearly 500 million people's records going back as far as 2014, and Marriott just now letting us know what happened. It apparently took them until September, after 4 years of some unidentified cyber attacker rummaging through data for 500 million people. Outrageous. A reminder to listen to my reports 3 times a day, coast to coast, on the Salem Radio Network. The mayor of Tijuana, Mexico, telling Fox News today how he would handle the lead organizer of the migrant caravan.
This person who says he's from Pueblos Sin Fronteras, he's saying that he's one of the leaders of the caravan. Well, why don't the federal police say, hey, come over here. You're charged with putting people in risk. Let's take care of him in a legally way.
The mayor, frustrated as you can tell, and no wonder. Pueblos Sin Fronteras has been backed by a handful of liberal organizations, left-wing organizations, including the Public Welfare Foundation, George Soros's Open Society Foundation money as well. And joining us, Eduardo Bolsonaro, a Brazilian congressman re-elected in October. And he is also son of Brazil's president-elect, Jair Bolsonaro. Congressman, great to have you with us, and congratulations to you, to your father, the people of Brazil. It's been a tough 4 years for your country, a proud and prosperous country that has now faced almost every kind of political corruption and economic deterioration. A huge number of challenges for your father to lead the nation against.
Good evening, Louis, and everybody. Thanks about the space. Yeah, we have a real challenge ahead, but someone have to do that. We have to clean it up, a lot of mess and a lot of corrupt. And that's also why my father just named it as the next Justice Minister of Brazil, the Judge Sergio Moro, who is in the head of the car wash operation.
And this is at a time when overwhelmingly your father is being called the Trump of Brazil. He is looking at reducing taxes. He's focusing on moving government to serve the people, and strengthening the military. And many do not understand how important Brazil is to this hemisphere. Over 200 million people, a once strong and prosperous economy that's deteriorated. These challenges, what will be your father's first steps upon taking office as president of Brazil?
We are going to have as economy ministry Mr. Paulo Guedes, who is graduated in the Chicago University, and he's going to do a lot of privatization and also pension reform, tax reform. But the details, it will be his team who is going to tell for the investors. But anyway, we are really looking forward because Brazil is changing from a huge socialism to a much more liberal economy. So what I came to do here in the U.S., it's also the first step to rescue our credibility and to send a message, a clear message that we are not going to be a socialist country anymore. And we are really excited to be really close of U.S.
And I know that that Americans are excited that you are headed in that direction because prosperity follows a strong capitalist economy, and we can't find, we always look, because people keep wanting to talk about socialism, we can't find a successful socialist country on the map. And do you expect to have a strong, it seems that your father and President Trump are natural, have a natural affinity in the way they think, in the importance of the challenges they face, and the necessity to turn the direction of a country.
Yes, my father as Trump, he doesn't follow the politically correctly. So what he thinks, he tell people. If you are going to like it or not is up to you. Like, we are not the kind of politicians that are going to do everything to receive your vote. So we really say that we prefer much more be closer of U.S. than another countries. Also, we would love to change the embassy of Brazil from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in Israel. We are looking forward to non-recognizing the last election in Venezuela, where you have much more than 80% of people that didn't go vote. So a lot of stuff that is going abroad are happening around the world, and the people just have to wake up and do the right thing.
Well, every journey begins with a first step, and obviously you and your father and Brazil are ready for that step. You've already taken it. Eduardo Bolsonaro, we enjoyed talking with you. We wish you the very best of luck. Take care. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you very much, Louis.
Thanks.
Thank you very much about the space again.
Appreciate it. Coming up, Mark Lamont Hill fired by CNN yesterday after he called for the destruction of Israel. Now the network is being condemned by the radical left, including an incoming member of Congress. What is going on in this country? We take that up with Pastor Robert Jeffress and much more next. Stay with us. On Wall Street today, stocks closing higher, ending this week. The Dow up 200 points today, the S&P up 22, the Nasdaq gaining 57. Volume on the big board. The heaviest trading session of the week, 4.5 billion shares. The Dow and S&P up 5% for this rather favorable week. The Nasdaq up nearly 6%. Crude oil, well, it lost over 1%, down to nearly $51 a barrel. Gold down a fraction. Silver down a full percent, and copper closing relatively flat. Marriott International Hotels hit with the second largest data breach in history. Nearly 500 million people's records going back as far as 2014, and Marriott just now letting us know what happened. It apparently took them until September, after 4 years of some unidentified cyber attacker rummaging through data for 500 million people. Outrageous. A reminder to listen to my reports 3 times a day, coast to coast, on the Salem Radio Network. The mayor of Tijuana, Mexico, telling Fox News today how he would handle the lead organizer of the migrant caravan.
This person who says he's from Pueblos Sin Fronteras, he's saying that he's one of the leaders of the caravan. Well, why don't the federal police say, hey, come over here. You're charged with putting people in risk. Let's take care of him in a legally way.
The mayor, frustrated as you can tell, and no wonder. Pueblos Sin Fronteras has been backed by a handful of liberal organizations, left-wing organizations, including the Public Welfare Foundation, George Soros's Open Society Foundation money as well. And joining us, Eduardo Bolsonaro, a Brazilian congressman re-elected in October. And he is also son of Brazil's president-elect, Jair Bolsonaro. Congressman, great to have you with us, and congratulations to you, to your father, the people of Brazil. It's been a tough 4 years for your country, a proud and prosperous country that has now faced almost every kind of political corruption and economic deterioration. A huge number of challenges for your father to lead the nation against.
Good evening, Louis, and everybody. Thanks about the space. Yeah, we have a real challenge ahead, but someone have to do that. We have to clean it up, a lot of mess and a lot of corrupt. And that's also why my father just named it as the next Justice Minister of Brazil, the Judge Sergio Moro, who is in the head of the car wash operation.
And this is at a time when overwhelmingly your father is being called the Trump of Brazil. He is looking at reducing taxes. He's focusing on moving government to serve the people, and strengthening the military. And many do not understand how important Brazil is to this hemisphere. Over 200 million people, a once strong and prosperous economy that's deteriorated. These challenges, what will be your father's first steps upon taking office as president of Brazil?
We are going to have as economy ministry Mr. Paulo Guedes, who is graduated in the Chicago University, and he's going to do a lot of privatization and also pension reform, tax reform. But the details, it will be his team who is going to tell for the investors. But anyway, we are really looking forward because Brazil is changing from a huge socialism to a much more liberal economy. So what I came to do here in the U.S., it's also the first step to rescue our credibility and to send a message, a clear message that we are not going to be a socialist country anymore. And we are really excited to be really close of U.S.
And I know that that Americans are excited that you are headed in that direction because prosperity follows a strong capitalist economy, and we can't find, you know, we always look, because people keep wanting to talk about socialism, we can't find a successful socialist country on the map. And do you expect to have a strong, it seems that your father and President Trump are natural, have a natural affinity in the way they think, in the importance of the challenges they face, and the necessity to turn the direction of a country.
Yes, my father as Trump, he doesn't follow the politically correctly. So what he thinks, he tell people. If you are going to like it or not is up to you. Like, we are not the kind of politicians that are going to do everything to receive your vote. So we really say that we prefer much more be closer of U.S. than another countries. Also, we would love to change the embassy of Brazil from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in Israel. We are looking forward to non-recognizing the last election in Venezuela, where you have much more than 80% of people that didn't go vote. So